My name is Olivia. I recently gave birth to my daughter Elena, who's about to turn 1. My husband has been incredibly supportive, especially since this is our first child. I'm very grateful for him. But there's a problem with my in-laws. My relationship with my mother-in-law Helen was already strained, leading us to a state of estrangement. Let me first talk about the incident that led us to this point. From the beginning, Helen and I never got along. Once I went to their home for a family meeting. I was greeted by balloons and decorations that were blatantly feminine, and the dinner menu was filled with ingredients I specifically said I couldn't tolerate. My husband was furious, and he deeply apologized to me when we got home. At that point, I was rethinking the whole marriage, but my husband desperately convinced me to proceed under certain conditions. Helen and I would only see each other during major life events. No shared meals. If we visit the in-laws, no overnight stays. If my husband wants to visit them during holidays, he goes alone. I would visit my own parents, and absolutely no sharing of our contact information. At the time of our marriage, it was already rare to have a landline at home, so fortunately, direct calls were never an issue. We decided that if these conditions were broken, I'd go back to my parents, and we would either sever ties with Helen or get a divorce. But Helen continued to create issues. Take our wedding, for example. We couldn't exactly not invite her. However, she showed up in a painfully inappropriate white mini dress. She was promptly escorted out by the staff and had to rejoin the ceremony in what I assume were her regular clothes. Every time she met relatives from my husband's side, she would complain. I had that dress made for my son's wedding, but the bride complained. I want my money back. Everyone just awkwardly chuckled. No one blames me, thankfully. In fact, they comforted me. She even tried to insert herself during the cake-cutting ceremony and deliberately attempted to spill wine on my dress. She was removed from the venue midway, and my husband apologized to me profusely. My husband had been apologizing profusely to my parents and relatives. He kept saying, "It's so embarrassing to have a mom like that." Even my parents and relatives had seen Helen's erratic behavior. Some suggested we should reconsider the marriage. But after seeing my husband's sincere apologies and his regretful face, they felt he wasn't a bad guy. They even offered words of sympathy. Life was peaceful for a while. It was just the two of us in our new home. Then one day, something happened. I usually work from home and rarely go out. My husband knows this. It's been our style since we started dating. But Helen didn't like it one bit. She'd say things like, "You can't possibly be doing legitimate work from home. You must be up to no good, probably having men over." My husband defended me then, but Helen was not one to back down easily. She continued to sulk. Then came a day when I had an outside job and left the house. When I got back, something felt off. First of all, the door was unlocked. I thought we might have been robbed and called my husband. "Hey, you're still at work, right?" "Yeah, what's going on?" "I told you I had work outside today, right? I locked the door when I left, but now it's open." "Is someone inside?" I listened carefully. Footsteps. The sound of someone rummaging through our things. Someone's in the house. "Got it. I'm coming home. Go hide out at a nearby diner." I did as he said, waiting at a nearby diner. Minutes later, he called my cell. "I'm sorry." "What happened?" For a moment, I thought he was cheating, but the reality was worse. "Turns out my mom had made a copy of our house key." "Are you kidding me?" Apparently, Helen had stolen a key from his key ring when he visited home and had it duplicated. That sounds criminal. It's your fault for not giving me one in the first place. I heard Helen's voice in the background. I couldn't believe it. I had my husband hand her the phone. Listen, Helen. Clearly you don't understand what being a daughter-in-law means. You should be begging me to come over any time. And you never visit on holidays or celebrate Mother's Day. You're even wearing flashy underwear. I was embarrassed and infuriated to realize she looked through my drawers. You're the one who's out of line. Liam had a hard time at our wedding because of you. You not only stole a key but snooped around our personal stuff. I'm done. I was considering still taking part in any family rites, but now I won't even bother with a funeral. I hung up and texted my husband. I can't stay in that house tonight. I'm going to a business hotel. Please clean up the house. If you can't deal with Helen, I'm going back to my parents. Within a minute, he texted back, I'm sorry, I'll take care of it. I want to cut ties too. From then on, it became taboo to bring Helen and me together at any family gatherings on my husband's side. When I was invited, Helen wouldn't be, and when Helen was there, I wouldn't go. In fact, ever since an incident at our wedding, the number of relatives who wanted Helen to attend had decreased. My husband often went in her place, so it wasn't a problem. This marked the end of my estrangement from Helen. But now we have a daughter, our first child, so we decided to reach out to my in-laws. All along, the silent party has been my father-in-law, George. He's quiet, for better or worse, and he can't stand up to Helen. Since Helen and I don't talk, George and I lost touch too. George is a good man, so we figured it was more for his sake that we decided to visit. We thought about asking Helen to leave for the day or inviting George over, but he has mobility issues, and it would be weird to kick Helen out of her own house. In any case, Helen wasn't going anywhere. So we decided that a brief visit with George couldn't hurt. Things went surprisingly well during the visit. Helen was smitten with our daughter and couldn't help but say, "She's so adorable. She looks like her dad. Reminds me of Liam when he was a tot." George, too, looked pleased, speaking volumes with his few words. It was the first peaceful moment we'd had with my in-laws since getting married. A few days after that calm visit, something happened. I was home alone with my daughter when the doorbell rang. It was a food delivery from my in-laws. The note simply read, "For her first birthday." We planned to prepare something ourselves, but I was touched they'd gone to the trouble. I thought we'd open it when my husband got home. Hours before he was due back, I had a bad feeling. I opened the gift, and what I found was shocking. My husband came home at that moment and asked, "What are you looking at?" I said, "It's a first birthday meal for our daughter from Helen," and threw it into the trash. Shocked, he shouted, "What are you doing? No matter how bad my mom is, you don't have to throw away what she gave to our daughter. You should apologize." Without even turning around, I asked, "Did you look inside?" Furious, he retrieved the gift from the trash. At first glance, it might have seemed normal, but the selection was horrible. Chicken feet, a cake shaped like a black cat using chocolate, shark fin soup, octopus, 13 peanuts, and a mirror? All in all, a parade of inauspicious items. I wondered where you could even find such a collection of bad omens, but she probably went to the trouble of making it herself. It was clearly not a kind gesture, but a deliberate act of malice. Seeing the contents, my husband stormed out holding the gift. I wanted to say goodbye, but ended up getting into the car forcefully. Any parent would speak up after something like this. As I tried to get in, my husband hesitated, wanting to say something. But one look at my face and he simply drove away. We walked right into Helen and George's house without even knocking, using our own key. What the heck is going on here? Helen and George were in the living room, apparently eating leftover chicken for dinner. When Helen saw the gift bag in my husband's hand, she said, "Oh, it arrived. Nice celebration meal, isn't it?" Her face looked genuinely pleased. A nice celebration meal? It's all filled with bad luck and inappropriate items. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree, huh? Oh, come on, it's lavish. I put a lot of care into making it. Just be grateful and use it. Who in the world would use such bad luck, inappropriate items for a first birthday celebration? Oh, were they bad luck or inappropriate? I didn't notice. I couldn't believe she said that with such confidence. I recalled what she had packed. The cat-shaped cake may look cute, but black cats are often associated with evil. Shark fin soup isn't exactly animal-friendly or environmentally conscious. Then there were 13 peanuts, which are not only a high allergy risk for a 1-year-old, but the number 13 is often considered unlucky. The gift was entirely inappropriate. Given all this, it's hard to believe she didn't know what she was doing. And the chicken, it was a single leg, hardly lavish. If they had simply sent their delicious fried chicken, it would have been a much better celebration gift. That's the crux of it. So you didn't know, huh? Then why don't you guys eat it? How dare you even say that? My husband then spoke up and Helen sighed heavily. You know, I've been thinking for a while. You take everything so negatively. Like that balloon during the family meeting. It simply looked feminine. It's art, dear, art. Helen continued, a little snorted. And at the wedding, I wore a white dress because it suits me. There's no rule saying a mother can't wear white. As for the cake cutting, I just wanted one last memory. You two are the mean ones, always taking away my joys. With that, Helen gestured. You've been so spiteful, so give back the money spent on the dress and this celebration. I was so flabbergasted I couldn't speak. Just stood there holding our daughter. Are you kidding me? I looked at my husband, whose face was red with anger. What? Ever since our wedding. No, for as long as I can remember, you've been embarrassing. You always sabotage events if you're not the center of attention. That's not true. My husband began recounting. It was the same during my own birthdays. She didn't want to do anything because she wasn't the center of attention. Even the birthday cakes were always what my mom liked. So I told her since elementary school that we didn't have to celebrate my birthday anymore. A young boy saying he didn't want a birthday celebration? He must have really disliked it. As he spoke, tears flowed down my husband's face. My mom would still force a birthday party every year, and even the gifts she chose were ultimately for herself. I later heard that the gifts my husband received were things like books that were more to Helen's taste, or craft supplies he would never use. Whenever he said he didn't need them, Helen would go, I thought it would be fun if we could use it together. Fine, I'll just keep it. That would get annoying. I thought I'd only have to put up with this stuff from her, but she started doing it to Olivia too. I can't take it anymore. I'm cutting ties. My husband declared. What are you talking about? You're our only child. What's going to happen to us? As if I care. I've done so much for you. What is she talking about? Everything Helen did was for herself. My husband felt the same way. All the things Mom's done, it's all for herself. She needs to be the star of any celebration, so I can't imagine any future event where she won't want to steal the spotlight. And that's just sad. That's not true. Helen was clearly rattled, but my husband's mind was made up. He then turned to George. Thanks for secretly buying me birthday gifts and taking me out to eat when Mom wouldn't celebrate my birthday. You! But I can't forgive that you didn't stop her from ruining our wedding or causing this whole mess.
I won't let Olivia or our child see you if she doesn't want to."
George looked down, saying nothing.
"We're leaving and we're going to move. You won't hear from us or see us again, and we're not telling you where we're moving to."
"Please rethink this." Helen was desperate and crying.
"No can do. It's not just Olivia who can't handle this anymore. I can't either. I wouldn't even want to attend my own funeral at this point."
"How can you say such a thing?"
"I hate it that much. I don't want to see you again. I'm sorry for everything until now. From here on out, it'll just be the three of us."
Finally, I found my voice and tears of relief started to flow. "I'm sorry I couldn't understand earlier."
"It's my fault for not speaking up. Let's go."
My husband took my hand, and we left his parents' home for good. Life became hectic for us. We were busy choosing a new home and packing, and before we knew it, the days had flown by. Oddly, Helen never showed up. When I casually mentioned Helen to my husband, he dryly laughed.
"I'd like to think Dad is holding her back."
Now we've moved and are living in a different area. No more surprise visits from Helen, no more contact. My husband occasionally communicates with George, but they haven't met. They probably never will. Maybe one day, it might be okay to meet with just George.